inside the house as well when the first shot was fired. So if it wasn't missing from the docket, why was it only handed up to the defense last week? You went to the lengths of going to all the accused to check the injuries on their feet, but you're unable to do that with Ulongwe. Why? The YouTube has too many experts referring to as Yutama experts.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Things felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull in a 10. Like Daddy,
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Nogwazi Ntombela, also known as Gwazive on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, darling. Now, as you guys know, every week I bring you updates in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, and I am here to do exactly that. Before we get into this video, please do like this video and comment down below with your thoughts on the proceedings for this week. This does help the channel reach a greater audience as YouTube does recommend the videos, and also do super thanks, which is the button written thanks down below if you can. Now, without wasting too much of your time, let us get into the week's proceedings. On Monday, the 4th of November, we were expecting Zulu, defense counsel for accused number 1, to return from his sick leave, I would call it. He has been not well for the past couple of weeks, and Monday was the day that he was expected to return to court. Now, it was brought to our attention that Zulu was indeed at court on Monday, however, was still not feeling well, and he then requested Unqumalo, which is the defense counsel for accused number 4, to stand in for him. Now, the judge does put it on record, and the judge does request them to put it on record what is happening with Zulu, and the examination in chief by Ukininda then does proceed. Some of the issues that Kininda touched on Monday were the issues of the DNA samples that were taken from Senzo Meyiwa's hands. He does talk about the fingerprints and the tests that were done by Umukwena, and he also goes into the details of which hospitals he went to in order to verify Longwe's injury on his foot. And my question is, why do you go to the lengths of going to all these hospitals instead of going to Longwe to check for that injury? When it was said that the person who was in the scene might have shot himself or might have injured himself on the foot, you went to the lengths of going to all the accused to check the injuries on their feet, but you're unable to do that with Longwe. Why? He then does confirm that Dr. Mbatsane, who was mentioned by Zulu to have treated Longwe's injury, had in fact died last year, and therefore obviously was not available to come and confirm the details that Zulu had talked about in court. They spent the rest of Monday just going through Longwe's AVL or tracker reports all over again, which I did not understand because we already have all this information on record from Mary Pretorius. Now, one of the questions that the judge asked during the examination in chief is whether Longwe made a statement alluding to the fact that he had been shot. Kininda says no, Longwe did not make a statement saying he had been shot, but he does have about 3 statements which are in the docket. Now, another thing that Kininda touches on Monday is the issue of accused number 3's cell phone records. He says that accused number 3's cell phone records were not made available to him. Well, the records that actually showed the transactions for the day of the incident of Senzo. And if you do remember, accused number 3 was arrested in 2015, and the section 205 was only requested once according to the evidence that we have before the court. So Kininda saying that he didn't receive the exhibit that contained the section 205 for accused number 3, questionable. And then he goes on to explain that there were 2 section 205s that were requested. One was done in March and one was done in October of 2015. And regardless of there being 2 section 205s, in my opinion, the fact that they were requested way before he was appointed in 2018 means that the police had access to those section 205s. Another issue that Kininda touches on is the issue of the statement by Mr. Hlophe. Now, in this case, we have heard that Mr. Hlophe, who is the brother-in-law to Senzo, was called on the night of the incident by Utumelo and basically told him that Senzo had been shot by mistake or had been shot by Longwe or Zandi's boyfriend. His exact words were he was shot by Zandi's boyfriend. Right. So now Mr. Hlophe had given statements to the police on numerous occasions saying the exact same thing. However, the investigations never led to the police actually investigating the statements. Now, Kininda, when testifying about the statement, says that it was said that the statement had gone missing from the docket, and he knows that 375, which is the second docket opened by Makubo, does mention the fact that a statement went missing. He says that this is an issue that he addressed in the public because there were rumors that the statement was missing, but he says that that statement never went missing. So now, from my knowledge of this exact statement by Uhlophe, Baloyi only gave it to the defense about a week ago. So if it wasn't missing from the docket, why was it only handed up to the defense last week? Now, just from the evidence on Monday, you could tell that Baloyi was nearing the end of his case because he kept saying, finally, let's just touch on this, finally, touch on this, finally. And then finally, he actually gets into the issue of Umchiago and reads the letter from the lawyers that says that Umchiago is a lawyer and all that. But obviously that doesn't really help because we really need to get to the bottom of who hired Umchiago. So the state then does say that they are done with the witness, which meant that cross-examination was meant to commence on Monday. Ramusipili indicated that he was not ready to cross-examine and that he would be ready on Thursday. So the court would have to adjourn until Thursday for him to actually start his cross-examination. The defense had indicated that because of Mgomezulu's ill health, they would allow for Mgomezulu to actually cross-examine at the end. So Ramusipili would be the one beginning with the cross-examination, then Mnisi would go on for accused number 3, Mumalo for accused number 4, Mshololo for accused number 5, and then lastly, hopefully by then Mgomezulu's health will be in a better position and he will be able to cross-examine after Mshololo. Thursday, the 7th of November, when we were expecting the proceedings to continue, there was firstly a late start due to some heavy traffic that was on the roads, so therefore they did start late. But also when they did start, there was an announcement by the judge that he wanted to make, and he made reference to Mgomezulu's proposition of Longwe being shot on the foot, and he says that when he asked Mgomezulu who the witness is that will come and testify that Longwe was shot, Mgomezulu said he would rather not say, just for the safety of the witness. Now the judge says that he went back and he has a case that he can quote where Mgomezulu is actually obliged to give that information to the judge, whether it's in chambers or whatever the case might be. Now, my thing is, Baloyi has been hiding witnesses from the defense and nothing has been said. Now that the defense is not talking about their witnesses, firstly, last week when Dr. Mbatsane was mentioned or whatever the case might be, Kininda was up and down looking for this Mbatsane. Now that the judge wants to know the name of the witness, what security do we have that Kininda will not now go look for this witness for Lord knows what? Because what is he doing with the defense's witnesses in the first place? So for the safety of that witness, oh my gosh, I don't know whether it's the law or what, but I would rather the defense don't say. After mentioning this point, the judge then says he has a citation, and when Ramusipili requests the citation, the judge is unable to give the citation to Ramusipili. It's giving dodgy. Like, why would you talk about a citation that has nothing to do with Ramusipili, and when he questions you about the same citation so that he can go so that he can go read up on it, then you say no, I shouldn't be giving you any citations. Judge Rata. Baloyi then raises the issue of concern with regards to Mgomezulu's absence and how they would go about actually continuing with the proceedings when Mgomezulu is not there. Mnisi does indicate that Mgomezulu says he is watching the proceedings via YouTube. However, the judge then decides that Mgomezulu actually needs to come to court and give a clear indication as to what's going on. Will he be provided with the transcript of the record and watch on YouTube? And is he happy just being at home listening through that process and then coming to cross-examine? Or if he does get better before the end of Umshololo, then he will obviously cross-examine the witness. So it then requested that Mgomezulu comes in on Friday so that they clarify the issue of the mandate that he's given to someone who will actually represent him during the period in which he is absent. On Friday, the 8th of November, Mgomezulu did indeed come to court. He indicated that he is feeling better, but he is not well enough to proceed with cross-examination. So the arrangement that was made is that Nxumalo will continue to stand in for Mgomezulu until further notice, basically, or until Mshololo completes her cross-examination. But if Mgomezulu does recover before then obviously he will make it back to court. Now, the thing that I found interesting about Kininda's evidence is that he keeps reiterating that the statement by Uhlophe never went missing. And also he's now slipping up because initially he had said he had no knowledge of what was in docket 375. But as the questions keep going on, he clearly knows exactly what is in 375, and every answer that he's giving, especially with regards to Hlophe's statement, is trying to cover up for the fact that he knows the information on 375. So now, from my understanding, on docket 375, there was obviously the charge of defeating the ends of justice, which included all the people that were present during the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. There is a lady as well, Umegi Piri, who was said to have cleaned the scene. She also is part of the people who defeated the ends of justice. And now in 375 as well, there is a statement that says there was Mr. Hlophe who gave a statement that was not in docket 636. So therefore, the person who took that statement is now also part of 375, because he also defeated the ends of justice by taking a statement out of a docket. Now, Kininda, when asked about the people that are charged on the docket, he only mentions the people in the house and Megi. He doesn't mention the fact that he's also part of the people that are accused in that docket. Now, Baloyi does point out that Mgomezulu will be following the proceedings via YouTube, and surprisingly enough, the judge says that YouTube has too many experts, referring to us. Yitama experts. Each judge recognizes us. Guys, Judge Rata is throwing jabs at YouTubers, okay? I don't think he understands the concept of YouTube and how the news channel is actually broadcasting the proceedings live. So when they refer to YouTube, they're not talking about us as YouTubers, but they're talking about the live broadcast from SABC. The judge then makes a ruling. The judge then makes a judgment that Mgomezulu's request is accepted or approved due to the fact that he doesn't see a conflict of interest with Mgomezulu not being here, but having someone represent him and actually still following the proceedings, enabling him to actually be able to cross-examine as soon as all those proceedings are done. Ramusipili commences his cross-examination, and to say I'm impressed with Ramusipili, I think, is an understatement. I was so impressed. Now, usually, just from my observation, I've observed that Ramusipili is a person that gets easily distracted. So when he does cross-examine and there's something else that comes up, he tends to lose his trail of thought. So with the proceedings on Friday, I saw that he was very calm. He allowed Kininda to go on his little talk, because one thing about Kininda, he will explain and he will furthermore and he will insist and he will just one thing to add the hell out of you, okay? So Ramusipili would allow that to happen, but he wouldn't lose focus of the questions that he's asking him. He basically went into the details of 375, because this is a docket that they have been trying so hard to basically bash, and they've been trying so hard to discredit. Ramusipili talks about the evidence of the statement of Uhlophe and how it was said to have gone missing. He questions what made those rumors come about the statement going missing, and how did you go about this? He then basically reads Ukininda's statements into the record, because Ukininda seems to have quite a few statements, and the one statement that I found interesting with regards to Kininda is the statement that he made in 2019, I think in November of 2019. Now, this particular statement was commissioned by Umukhola. Now, guys, if we take it back to, I think, the trial within a trial, when Umukhola was on the stand, she said that she had no prior knowledge of the Senzo Meyiwa case before the arrest of accused number 1. Now, yet she is the commissioner on Kininda's statement in 2019, which proves that she had knowledge of the Senzo Meyiwa case way back in 2019. So, credibility of these witnesses is hanging by the thread. Ramasipili also touches on the issue that Kininda initially also said that he believed the theory of no intruders, but after getting facts, he says that he then changed his mind about that. Ramasipili also asked Kininda whether the fact that there was now a 375 that emanated from 636, does that have any impact on 636 as a docket? And Kininda says it has no negative impact. Kininda, how can it have no negative impact when the people that were assisting investigating 636 are saying that some of the people investigating 636 are assisting in defeating the ends of justice? How can it not have a negative impact? Now, there is a statement that Ramasipili touches on, which is statement 8225 by Kininda again, that now is a statement whereby he is motivating why Kelly Khumalo should also be arrested as the mastermind. Now, in the statement, he mentions that Kelly Khumalo has 4 other cell phone numbers that she failed to disclose to the police. Now, if you truly believe that Kelly Khumalo had something to do with this, and you're saying you're confident and you're happy with your investigations, you've seen the connections in the phones, you've seen the connections in the pictures that were found in Kelly Khumalo's phone, why isn't Kelly Khumalo arrested then? Why isn't she accused number 6? Another very interesting thing about this about Ramasipili's cross-examination is the fact that he touches on a statement by Kininda where Kininda said there was 1 kid in the house. Now, being the lead investigator of this case, how can you not know the number of people and number of children that were present in the house during the incident? He's saying there was 1 kid, but we all know there were 2 children that were there. As the lead investigating officer, isn't that one of the most important things that you need to gauge from the case, or that you need to get from the people that were there? You don't even know how many people were in the house. As the lead investigator, the bomb that Ramasipili dropped on Friday during his cross-examination is the statement by Steenkamp, who is the lady that compiled the identikit. Now, I touched on this in my previous videos as well, but now we have the full statement on record. Ramasipili even says he wants to put everything on record about Steenkamp's statement so that when she comes to testify, then she doesn't need to repeat herself. So he goes on to read the full statement by Steenkamp, and this statement was done on Monday, which was the day after the incident. Now, Steenkamp says the people that were in the house obviously came to her to try and compile an identikit of the people that actually were intruders in the house. She says that the first person she spoke to was Kelly Khumalo, who says that there were 2 intruders that entered the house. She says that the suspect A, which we now know that the state is trying to say is accused number 3, was aggressive. He had an old revolver. So she mentions a revolver in her description to Steenkamp. She also says that herself and Senzo jumped onto the intruders and a scuffle broke out. So the version of Kelly running out, Longwe running out, Kelly did not tell Steenkamp on the day, or the day after the incident. She then explains or gives a description of the first intruder, and she says that he was in his 20s. Firstly, he had a dark brown complexion. Now, I've been saying this repeatedly. Nube, accused number 3, who they're saying was the first intruder, is my complexion. He's very light in complexion. He's not dark brown. But according to Kelly, the person that came into the house with the dreadlocks was dark brown. They say that he had no scars. Well, Kelly says that he had no scars and he had a gold tooth. Another thing that Kelly says is that he was wearing a brown jacket with wool on the collar, which is something that the defense, I think, have not touched on, because the collar of the jacket of accused number 3, according to the pictures that have been shown in court, does not have wool on the collar. But let us move on. He then says that he was carrying an old black revolver, and the most important thing is that she could not identify accused number 3. She could not give a description. She could not give a skin tone. She could not give height. She could not give weight, nothing, right? Second person who went into Steenkamp is Uzandi. Zandi says pretty much the same thing as Kelly Khumalo with regards to accused number 1. She says that the only thing that Zandi added that Kelly did not talk about is the eyebrows, where she says that the eyebrows were a certain shape because she noticed them after the hat had fallen off, because apparently accused number 3 was wearing a hat on the day of the incident, and then after the scuffle the hat fell off and she was able to see the eyebrows of the guy. Another very interesting thing is that she also could not describe accused number 2 or intruder number 2. And it's surprising to me because she's the very same person that was crying crocodile tears in court saying she recognizes the guys. Journey. The third person that went in according to Steenkamp was Utumelo. She says that Utumelo was the most traumatized out of all of them. Him as well could explain intruder number 1. And when Steenkamp showed Utumelo what Zandi and Kelly had said about the intruder, then he agreed to the features and everything that they had put in. And also he could not identify the second intruder, which is surprising because it's the same Tumelo who says, no, now I realize that it's the same guy because I saw a beard here, I punched him on the face. But he could not tell this to Steenkamp. Then the most important one that I think raised the most suspicion for me is Longwe's statement. Now Longwe says to Steenkamp, the description is very much similar to Kelly and Zandi and Dumelo's description, so dreadlocks, short guy, jackets, and so forth. But the only thing that now Ulongwe says is that he saw a scuffle. Now, how did Longwe see a scuffle when Longwe was the first one who ran out? So Longwe in this description to Steenkamp says what? Says he was actually inside the house when the scuffle broke loose. 2, he says that he ran after a shot was fired. So according to Ulongwe, he was inside the house as well when the first shot was fired. Now, another interesting thing is now where the description of the second intruder actually comes in, where it said that there was a gentleman by the name of Makaleni or Mr. Makaleni, who says that he, whilst outside the Khumalo household, saw 3 gentlemen. Now, he says 2 of these gentlemen were at the gate, and of these 2 that were at the gate, the one seemed to be about 25 years of age. He was 1.8 meters tall and slender and built, and he had a medium brown complexion. And then he says he also had a gold tooth and had dreads, a mustache and beard, and was wearing a black hoodie. Now this is who I think they are saying is accused number 2, but the funny thing is this person is describing this person as the person that was at the gate and not the person that entered the Khumalo residence. He even says that he was on his phone at some point or something along those lines. Now, another interesting person that comes into play is Uspiwe, another one of the gentlemen that was said to be outside the Khumalo residence during the night of the incident, who says he didn't see any faces or colors or dreadlocks or anything like that. All he saw is that there was a blue or green sedan car that was outside. Car that Ntapseng says didn't see any cars after the incident. Car that no one else saw, only Uspiwe. He says he saw a blue-green car and there were 2 gentlemen inside the car, and the car drove off, and there were 3 males that were left outside the Khumalo residence after their car drove off. And he says one guy with dreadlocks ran. All right, one guy with dreadlocks ran, and he says one guy jumped over the wall. Now the only person that jumped over the wall was Umtoko, which is one of Senzo Meyiwa's friends. So the person that was outside only saw the guy with the dreads running and the guy jumping the wall. So it couldn't have been the intruders that were jumping and running. It must have been the people that were in the house. Possibility then does indicate that he will get back to the description of accused number 2. For now, he was actually focusing on the fact that the people in the house mentioned a revolver. Now, another interesting thing about Ramosipile's cross-examination is when he touches on the runaway phone of Kelly Khumalo, which Kininda says picked up the Mulaleki Tower, which is a tower near the hostel. Now, when Ramsipile questions which hostel are you referring to, he says the Basotho hostel, and this is according to evidence that was given by Stain. Now, if you remember, Pinky Vai Fillingham on the 21st of June, to be specific, told Sibanda clearly that Mulaleki would not pick up the Basotho hostel, or the Basotho hostel would not pick up the Muleleke Tower because Muleleke Tower was the furthest tower from the Basotho hostel. So now Keninda is still relying on Stein's evidence. We've already proven that Stein's evidence is not reliable, which means that the issue that the phone actually went to the Basotho hostel is a hoax. It's a lie. Void, null and void, nothing, zero. Because if Ramasipile can go back to Pinky's record, and Pinky is the expert in cell phone data, is the expert in those towers, who says that tower could not have picked up Basotho hostel, and now Stein says something else, and Pink is the person from Vodacom, who do we believe? And also Keninda now all of a sudden says he's not an expert in this. Stein did make the links and what. You've been testifying about DNA where you're not an expert, but now all of a sudden when it comes to cell phone records, you're not an expert and you don't want to explain. Please give us a break. We heard some brand new from the box evidence from Keninda where he says there was a link now between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. All along, the link was between accused number 5 and Kelly through the 2 calls that we couldn't verify via Vodacom. Now there's a link between accused number 3 and Kelly Khumalo. And initially he said that it was through photos, so through cell phone. Stein does say there was communication. And I'm just like, what communication? What communication are you talking about? Because there was no communication. And Ramasipile did a very intelligent job by asking, do you even know what the source of the pictures that you're linking this accused and Kelly Khumalo with is? Do you know the source of the photo? He doesn't know the source of the photo. Okay, if you say you saw the same photo on Longwe, Kelly and accused number 3's phone, who sent the photo to who? He doesn't have that information. And then he goes as far as asking him, okay, when you saw the picture on Kelly's phone, did you ask her about it? No. Did you ask Longwe about it? No. Did you ask accused number 3 about it? And he says, no, I asked him about the whole case. So the photo is still part of the case. No. Specifically about the photo of the money that you found on his phone. Did you ask him where he got the photo? No, he didn't ask him. What investigation did Keninda really do, guys? What investigation did Keninda really do?
I realized after editing this video that there is something that I forgot, and that is the issue of Sfiso Zungu. Now, according to Constable Zungu, Sfiso Zungu is also accused number 5, Fisogo Hlentuli. But according to Keninda, we found that Sfiso Zungu is actually Gwabini Mangasekati.
So basically, those were the questions that Ramasipile had so far in the cross-examination of Keninda. It was a good week. I feel Ramasipile is doing very well. He needs to maintain the same standard next week. Those are the proceedings for the week, and we know that Keninda does have exams on the 12th of November, I think. So we will be adjourning until Wednesday. And that is where Ramasipile will continue with his cross-examination. I'm hoping that he's still going to bring more. I can see that he's taking a very good direction so far. I'm happy with the way that he's proceeding with his cross-examination. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have a great weekend. I will see you next week with another update. Bye.